Hello. I listened to Grace Under Pressure from 1984 earlier this morning while I was taking a walk. And I'll be honest, the first three songs, I wasn't quite into it yet. It kind of reminded me of my reaction to the first Rush album where I'm like, very good, very high quality music happening, a little boring. Before you get mad at me, I've sort of changed my mind later because I've had more listens to it. That was my first reaction. It was really until The Enemy Within that I was like, okay, this is some more interesting music happening, some things that I think will stick around in my brain later. Body Electric, I was more into it. And so I messaged Ian Allison on Instagram. I was like, you're going to hate me. I'm not digging these first three songs so much. And he was like, are you kidding me? Red Sector A? You know, that's about the Holocaust. And I was like, oh God, I'm a half Jewish person. You know, I come from a lineage of Holocaust survivors. So I was like, okay, I need to listen to that one again. And I put the lyrics on and I focused on the lyrics, and of course I was moved by, it's a haunting song. So I ended up listening to this album, I think 3 times today. And it got better as I listened more times. But part of that is I realized the first time I listened to it, I was listening on this new app that I downloaded called like Quobuzz or something like that, that claims to have higher quality sound for streaming. And so I was like, oh, I want to hear this album like really clear. And whatever thing I put on there, it was like mixed really weird, and it was like very like reverby. And then the second time I put on the Apple Music 2026 remastered version, not the Terry Brown mix. Let's be clear. The regular 2026 remaster, and all of a sudden I liked the album so much more. And I was like, oh, this is closer to Signals than it is like what I was hearing the first time. Still not my favorite album, I'll be honest, but much better than the first listen that I had. I don't know who mixed that first one that I heard. And if you go on Apple Music and look up the Terry Brown mix, he's the producer that worked with them for so many years. But he didn't even produce this album, but he went back and like mixed his version of a record that he didn't even produce, which is kind of weird. And it's like a shitty mix. Like if you listen to him back to back, like if you put on Distant Early Warning and listen to the 2026 remaster and then put on Distant Early Warning and put on the Terry Brown mix, you're like, all of a sudden you can't hear the guitars. The drums are a lot louder, which I kind of like actually. And the drums are a little bit more like authentic sounding, which I actually like, but everything else sounds shittier. And I'm just like, oh, he kind of, I don't know. I think he's still resentful of Rush for firing him as a producer. So he purposely put a really shitty mix of Grace Under Pressure on iTunes. You know, it's still not my favorite record, but it's really intriguing. And obviously the lyrics there's some things about war and the Cold War and the Holocaust. And it's like, it's definitely deep, and it's musically got a lot going on. But after listening to it a few times, I was like, oh, I'm starting to like lose the plot of what I believe Rush to be. And I'm not saying that this isn't Rush, but I'm just like, I'm losing my connection to like what I like in Rush a little bit. And I went back and I just for something totally different, I listened to all of the first half of 2112 in the car. And I was like, oh yeah, it's like this. And it actually made me appreciate the later stuff more, because it's like, if you think about how much this band changed, it just makes you respect them a lot. It's very, very cool. But I have to say, sonically, I prefer an album like 2112 just because of the way albums were just mixed and instruments just sounded so natural in the late 70s. It's just different. But then again, on the last video, I said, I'm pretty sure Signals is my favorite thing I've heard so far. So it's like, oh, could we just have an album that's like modern like signals, lyrics that are modern, like Grace Under Pressure signals, but like recorded with kind of like a late 70s flair. I don't know, man. But I don't have too much to say about this album, partially because I know this is like a lot of fans really dig this record, and I don't want to say any critiques because like I change my opinions like every 2 seconds with Rush. So these videos aren't really opinions, they're reactions. I want to be clear about that. Like it's hard to have strong opinions about things that I'm not overly familiar with. And, you know, Hemispheres I feel overly familiar with, but a lot of these records I'm coming to for the first time. So bear with me. Don't be offended by my opinions because these are just reactions to music, and my reactions just keep changing. And I have a feeling that by the end of this whole project, I will like every one of these records and won't have too much negative things to say about them because they're all just growing on me. Great band. Love you, Rush. Can't wait to see you in Denver.